What is good, guys? It's Rey-Jay back with another video. And in this, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla, SPY, Nvidia, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down what's going on with the overall market moving forward, what's happening with the economic calendar going into tomorrow, what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before I begin the devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am firstly not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Weeble link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Weeble and deposit $500, you are guaranteed 20 free stocks. And the offer ends very soon in just about 6 days from now. Anyways, the market had a very, very interesting day. SPY was stuck between this range of 544 as resistance and 540 as support. We spent the whole day within this range, but besides one little moment when SPY went below 540, only to get bought back up. So the question is, what's going to happen moving forward to SPY, Tesla, and the others? Tesla still has a gap to fill, but overall it's still holding this support quite well. And we had some very, very bullish news that came out for Tesla, so I want to talk about that a little bit later as well. But first, we got to focus on some data one more time. Let's talk about some data that just came out before I break down the details of these charts. So I just want to make it very clear. In the morning, we got the PPI data reports. This is why the market actually saw a little pump and dump. PPI ended up coming in below expectations on every single metric, so not bad whatsoever. Decent PPI came out that was expected after how we saw CPI. And with that happening, once again, the market saw a nice little push, at least during the pre-market before coming back down. And overall, at the end of the day, it still held up, getting a somewhat green day. So that's why the market held up. PPI is still aligning with CPI as we're starting to see these decreases right here. You guys can see the trend right here on CPI as the data is improving. Jerome Powell, on the other hand, said that we shouldn't become too complacent despite this, and I do agree with that point. So we'll have to see what ends up happening, at least moving forward from the Fed's policies, but so far the market is continuing to hold up. Now, tomorrow is going to be Friday, June 14th, 2024. 30 minutes after the market opens, we have the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Data Report, the 5-year inflationary expectations, lots of data involving Michigan. So watch for some volatility 30 minutes after the market opens at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Then we have a couple of Fed speakers later on during the day, but it's all very minor. So we'll see how all of this ends up affecting the markets. Now, right now, the fear and greed index is currently more fearful. The market is once again seeing a little shift because we saw the market dip a bit before getting bought back up. So we are starting to see some fear building up right now in terms of sentiment. So we'll see how this affects the markets. Momentum, however, is still greedy as buyers are still stepping in. So there is still greed overall, despite the overall sentiment kind of shifting. On top of this, I just want to mention that the puts and call option positioning is still at extreme greed. This is the overall ratio. This is the overall ratio for now. This is not just represents SPY. It kind of encompasses a different indicator. Right now, there's still a lot of greed, at least in the markets, as we're seeing more of these puts being closed. But for market volatility, the VIX is still down at some key supports, currently in the low 12s. Besides that, guys, for tomorrow, just tomorrow specifically, I just want to call this out. We currently have about 178,000 calls in the money and 150,000 out of the money. That puts a total of over 300,000 calls expiring. And we also have over 1.2 million puts expiring in total for everything. So the majority positions tomorrow are going to be on the put side. We have 534 being max pain and a 3.82 puts to call ratio. So that's going to be very important. So the question is the market about to see a squeeze? Are market makers about to squeeze shorts? Personally, we're seeing most shorts already out of the money, and SPY is at some very, very tough resistance, so it's going to be a little trickier to do that unless we get a very, very nice catalyst. If we get the opposite, if the market gets a rug pull, I would be looking at max pain. This might actually go up a little bit, especially because of the fact that they might try to balance things out with all the puts out of the money. So I'll be watching this very, very carefully. Now, for Tesla, I just want to call this out real quick. Tesla had some very bullish news. The shareholders basically voted in favor of the majority of the things that the Tesla board wanted, from once again re-electing Kimball Musk and also other things involving more proposals being passed. They also changed the overall incorporation of Tesla to Texas, which is good news for them. And Elon Musk's pay package got approved. There were other propositions that got approvals. I'm not going to talk about every single one, but I just want to mention that. So that's not too bad. The board director terms were 3 years. Now they're just reduced to about 1 year. So it's a little change that just happened, not in favor of most directors. But besides that, most changes were still in favor of the board. Now, let me just mention that Musk also gave a speech, and Elon Musk said a lot of very bullish things. He was speaking for about an hour, and that's the reason why I'm kind of recording this kind of late, because I was just listening to Elon Musk. Long story short, he's very bullish on Tesla for the long term. He said that Kathy Wood's projections are correct of Tesla going to many thousands per share and being worth over $5 trillion in market cap. Musk also said that Tesla could be worth trillions and trillions in the future. He believes it's going to happen. He's very optimistic about Optimus. He thinks that they're going to have many Optimuses working in the Gigafactory, not to mention the Robotaxi being a big hit for Tesla. He also mentioned that Tesla's going to eventually reach 100 million cars for their total fleet. The Model Y is just becoming more and more popular, and lots of bullish news. So his AI talk is bullish. The Optimus developments is bullish. Everything Musk said was very, very bullish in my opinion. I'm very excited for the future. Also, Musk has mentioned that FSD is making a lot of improvements to the point where the interference rate is actually slowing down. So that means people could go many, many miles without interfering. Everything Musk said was bullish, at least for the long term. The share price should like a lot of what Musk said. So, anyways, I'll talk about Tesla in just a second. Let's focus on SPY now. What's happening to SPY? I want to make it very clear that right now, SPY has support at this 540 area, with resistance at 544 as the key area. Otherwise, we just kind of shop around these levels right here. Now, in my personal opinion, I think that we're going to most likely shop again tomorrow, depending on the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report. If we break 544, we are bullish. We're easily going up to 545 plus. Then we will get closer to 550s if we break that. If we're bearish, when we're looking for 540 as support, if we lose this, we'll be dipping all the way down to 537 to fill this gap. But we need a 4-hour close below 540 for that to happen. Today, we did go below 540, but we got bought back up within about like 10, 20 minutes. So that shows it didn't really hold below that, and the buyers stepped in to still defend. So excuse me. So the buyers are still very, very present. They're still defending. And as of right now, SPY is range bound. Tomorrow, look for a little pop. And if we do get a drop, we'll just be looking at this range. So I see a lot of range trading for tomorrow based off the current technicals between 540 and 544. But if we lose 540, we could still come down to fill the gap soon. It's still a strong possibility. We just have to give it some time just to wait and see. But I think there's going to be a lot of range bound price action tomorrow being a Friday. And we'll see what the market makers try to pull off. But that's what I see as the most likely possibility. Now, Nvidia is looking bullish overall. It's pushing up very, very nicely. There's a good chance it's going to try to go a little higher, but this resistance around the 130 to low 130s is very tough. So I think that Nvidia is going to go a little higher to about 130, maybe hit 131, but it's just going to start shuffling once we get up there and start to fight some tough resistance. So look for a little bit more upside, just a bit more, before we start to see some sideways price action. And by the way, if we lose this support right here, I'm going to make this yellow so you guys can kind of like see it. This yellow support right here, if we lose 127, we have a gap to fall all the way down to 125. So that's going to be our key support, 127. And our resistance is going to be around 130. I favor Nvidia is going to go a little higher before it starts to shuffle, so watch for that carefully. How about for Tesla? Honestly, guys, I see two possibilities for Tesla. We could dip a bit to fill this gap and then get a big bounce. This could just be a quick liquidity grab during the pre-market, or we could start pushing from here. I think that Tesla's structure is bullish overall. When you zoom out of the charts, we have a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure, and we happen to see a lot of consolidation here before we saw a big move. And generally, the big move is to the upside during the summertime. That's happened many times historically for Tesla. Now, why do I say that? Because everything Musk said was super bullish. AI development, FSD, the Optimus robots being worth more than the cars themselves, Tesla being worth tens of trillions. That's what Elon Musk said. And he also said a lot of very, very bullish things about their growth, their software development, their AI chips being super, super advanced, and a lot of other things. So, Musk was talking about AI. You guys know how AI talk could cause stocks to explode. Just look at Nvidia. So that goes to show, I think Tesla's going to follow the trend. We're going to see some upside very soon. Could we dip to fill the gap? Yes, we could do that first and then try to break out, or we could just break out from here. Overall, Tesla is bullish nonetheless. For the QQQ, the QQQ is also more, I would say it's on an uptrend right now, but there is one issue. We have some tough resistance around this 480 area. So just like SPY, I'm going to be watching a quick range on the QQQ. If we break past 478, I could be looking for a push all the way up towards 479, then 480. If we end up losing support at 476, I'll be watching 474 as our key support. Losing that, we turn bearish. So I know there's a lot of tight levels on the triple Q. That's why it's kind of like trading this way. But let me make it very clear that right now, I think that the QQQ, if we lose this support right here, the yellow one, I'm going to turn a little bit more bearish. I'm going to make this yellow so you guys can see this. If we lose this yellow support, we're more bearish. And if we end up breaking this resistance up here, around this 478 area, this range right here, I will turn a little bit more in favor of the bulls. So right now, I think we're just going to range trade within this area for quite some time on the QQQ. I think that's going to happen tomorrow. We'll just have to see which way we break for a bigger move, but that's the most likely possibility. Now, Apple pumped really hard without slowing down. So, in my opinion, it's just kind of choppy right now. We have resistance at about this 215 area. We have support at 212. I think that we're just going to continue to, trade sideways between 212 and 215 for an extended period of time. And there could be a dip down to 210 coming later on, but I don't think it's going to be that minor. So give it some time. For Bitcoin, Bitcoin is looking a little bit weaker. We came all the way down to support currently at the 66,000 area, only to rebound a bit. So watch previous resistance becoming, or previous support becoming resistance around the 67,000 area. I think we're going to be pushing higher to test that, and we'll see if we get a rejection or not. The overall structure on Bitcoin is a little bit more bearish looking because we had a double top leg structure. We're kind of downtrending a bit. So that kind of signifies that Bitcoin might see a little pop and drop. So watch for that very carefully. For, I already went over everything else. For NEO, I think that NEO could either complete this gap fill around 4.2 or it could try to base where we are and then try to rebound back up to 4.6. So watch for that very carefully. Anyways, guys, that's it for the main five I typically talk about. Now let's just focus on the rest of the tickers. I'm going to try to be kind of quick. I know I'm recording this kind of late because I was listening to Elon Musk and the Tesla shareholder meeting. So what do I see for Palantir? Palantir on the 4 hour is showing some weakness. It depends if we can try to get back above our 20 EMA or not. If we break past this 23.32 area, look for a rebound to about 24. If we end up failing to break that, I think we're going to be coming down to about 22.75. The chart does look like it wants to dip a little bit more towards the 22s. I would say the very high 22s. So that looks a little bit more probable for Palantir before we try to get a bounce. So watch for that. Now, Supermicro had bullish news. That's why we saw nice little breakouts today. With this happening, I wouldn't be surprised if we actually try to continue a little higher. We'll be looking for a test of this imbalance towards 892 into about 900, but watch resistance the closer we get to 900. That's where resistance is going to be very tough, and we could see rejection right there. So in terms of levels, I'm going to draw this out real quick. I would be watching 882, 882, then eventually 900. That's very close to that 892 area as resistance. For support, I'm going to be watching 867. If we lose that, we're going to be tipping all the way back down towards 850. So I do think this is looking a little bit more bullish. I might try to push a little bit higher, so be careful trying to short this, but be careful once we get to closer to 900. That's when this thing could get a rejection. So be very patient and watch to see how it reacts to resistance. For Rivian is once again has this big red bar that kind of developed right here. Watch resistance around 11.3. Watch support at 10.89. Because we saw a big red day, we could actually dip a little bit more. It's about the 10.8 area before we try to bounce. So look for a little bit more downside before a bounce is the most likely possibility. For SoFi, we got this big pump and dump. And overall, just like I predicted yesterday, we might see some downside. That's what kind of happened. So I'm going to be looking for a little bit more downside towards 6.7, then a rebound back up to 6.95. So I think it's going to dip a bit, a little bit more, maybe another 10 cents or so before it tries to rebound. If we do hold 6.7, look for a rebound to about 6.95. But if we do lose it, because the last time we had 6.7, we bounced like 3 times off of it. If we lose this strong support, then we're going to be dipping all the way down to 6.5. Okay, so it's going to dip to 6.7. If we lose that, 6.5 is coming. If we bounce off 6.7, since we did that many times historically, we're coming up to 6.95. Look for a test of 6.7 tomorrow. I just want to clarify that as fast as I can. For the IWM Russell 2000, we have support around 200. We have resistance around 202. We're kind of shuffling right now, stuck between supply and demand. I expect this to just continue to shuffle between 200 and 202 for some time before we see a big breakout. So watch this way we break for the bigger move. If we lose 200, we're going to be dipping down to 198. If we break 202, we're going to be pumping back up. I'm going to just give this some time just to be safe. For AMD, AMD is showing a little bit of weakness, but we haven't officially lost our key levels. We have resistance around 161, and we have support all the way down to about 158. If we lose 158, we're going to be dipping all the way down towards 155. And if we break past 161, we'll be pushing all the way to 163. I think that there's a bit of a downtrend here. We had these highs up here being established before we start to sink. So look for a little pop and drop like move, and more potential downside is a stronger possibility. If we lose 158, that is. So I think we might actually test 158. We'll see if we bounce off that or not. But there is a little bit of weakness in the charts, and it does favor downside as of right now. This could change depending on news, but that's what I'm seeing. ARM did push very nicely towards 160, but I said yesterday we might be looking for some tough resistance up here, and that's what happened today. If we break past 158, look for a 160 retest. If we end up rejecting, we're going to be coming back down towards 152. I favored might actually come down a bit to at least 155, then shuffle. I think it's just going to shuffle in this range for some time. We're range bound between 152 and 160. So look for some sideways range bound price action before we get a big direction. That's what I see for tomorrow. For Coinbase to me is looking a little weaker looking at this structure because we had this high up here, came down, made a lower high. And we're also doing this like right over here. So I think we're going to be retesting 243 tomorrow, 243 to 240. If we lose that, we're going to be looking for a bigger dip all the way down to the imbalance over here and the lower 230s. If we bounce off this, if once we get this test of this low level, if we do get a bounce, we'll be looking for a retest of 250 plus. But I see a little dip coming. I think we're going to be dipping down to 243 to 240, and we'll see if we bounce or not. So look for that dip before anything else. For Amazon, we actually have a bearish looking structure right over here. Watch 183.74. If we hold above it tomorrow morning, we're going up to 185 all over again. If we fail to hold it, we're going to be dipping all the way down to 182. I think 182 is going to be coming next. It looks a little bit more bearish to me, but we'll have to wait and see just to be safe depending on the structure. For Meta looks to me like it's kind of dipping a bit. We could be approaching 501. If we lose this, we'll be dipping all the way down to about 498. If we hold this, we could rebound to 505. It looks to me like it's going to be testing the low 500s all over again before it continues to shuffle. So it's not really making a big move. It's kind of like choppy, but there might be a little downside coming. Microsoft is looking a little bit weaker because we had this tough resistance up here around 444. Our support is currently around 438. I wouldn't be surprised if we actually touch 438 and rebound a bit and just kind of trade sideways between 438 and 440. So look for some sideways price action tomorrow. If we lose 438, look for a dip all the way down towards 435, the previous resistance becoming support. So I think there's a very, very good chance we kind of shuffle a bit and maybe see some downside. So just be careful with this tech stock. For Google, we got a nice little liquidity grab down here and came down exactly as predicted. So now look at resistance around 177, look at support at 176.5, then eventually 175. My gut tells me it's going to rebound a bit and start dipping back down lower, so I do favor that a little bit more. For GameStop is actually kind of shuffling right here between supply and demand. We have resistance currently around this 32 area. We have support currently around 24. And we're just kind of shuffling where our EMAs just happen to be. So I think there's a very, very good chance that GameStop is just going to continue to shuffle. So we'll just have to give it some time. So once GameStop continues to shuffle, I think that it's just going to trade sideways for now. We need to break 30 to really start running. And I do see potential for it to do so. But there's no confirmation of it happening yet. So I just want to make it very clear. I think that we have to really wait. I really believe that GameStop has potential, but it's not really making the move yet. So just be patient and see if we get that breakout. AMC as well has some potential as well, but we haven't really broken 5.5 yet. If it breaks 5.5, we're going to turn bullish. Otherwise, if we don't do it, we're just going to shuffle right now for some time. So give it some time. For DJT, we're testing 40 right now, not really doing much. We have resistance currently around 41.7, and we have support all the way down here towards 38. My gut is telling me it's going to be pushing for 41.7, so we'll have to just give it some time. For the VIX, once again, we're coming down a little bit, looking a little bit more bearish, but we're at some key supports. The last time the VIX hit these levels, it did see a little bounce. So we'll see if the VIX bounces or not. It doesn't have to, but we'll just wait and see. The 10-year is also dipping, which is actually contributing to why the market's pushing. We have this gap to fill. So if it comes down a bit, this could actually help the market to some extent. However, I'm not going to promise anything because the 10-year is just kind of doing its own thing. So for tomorrow, just know that the market's going to be at tough resistance. We're going to likely see a lot of sideways price action for SPY that's range bound. And whichever way we break will determine what the bigger move is. Lose 540, we're going to be dipping. Break past 544, and we're going to continue to squeeze. I will be very patient and give it all the time it needs. So that being said, guys, thank you all so much for listening. I really appreciate every single one of you guys. I think you guys are absolutely incredible. Thank you for your attention. And once again, I am sorry I'm kind of late today because I was just listening to the Tesla shareholder meeting. That took quite a bit of time. But nonetheless, the future is still very bright for Tesla, the markets, and etc., no matter what we end up seeing. But just know that SPY and the QQQ are at some tough resistance levels, so we'll see how things go. Tesla also has potential to run at least later on, especially as we approach the end of the month, in my personal opinion, looking at the current technicals. That's it, guys. I'll see you guys tomorrow morning before the market opens. I'll be talking about some data and such. Until then, take care and peace out.